Okay, team, we are recording. Hi, KGB. Thank you for
Hello.
in class. We are recording our session. We've got Jennifer Tracewell, and then I'll have the other people just quickly say their names, and we're gonna just jam through this.
I'm Kerri. Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
Oh, sorry, Malia Martin. Hi, Karen.
And I'm Kerri King.
LaTesha Knighton.
Awesome. All right, so I'll start with Francine, who is a student at West Seattle High School, or maybe just Seattle High School. And out of the three, I felt like she seemed to have the lowest sort of numbers as far as GPA, SAT, strength of schedule, but we can kind of go over that overall. She has a 3.3 GPA. Thank you, Kerri. She's doing all of our scribing for us today and organizing. She's amazing. So it's a public high school. And let me grab her scores to throw in our document here. So 3.3, did I say that correctly? Yes. And
We could probably go over all of this information first as a way for us to be on the same page so that,
yeah. Okay, so like we'll do each student data first. Is that what you mean?
We can start with, for each student, we can start with the academic data and then move on to the activities and then move on to the personal so that our discussion can be organized. And then you can propose, I guess, a decision and the rest of us can join the discussion. How's that?
I think that's okay. That's great. Okay, so should I continue just reading off the academic piece for Francine?
Yes, please.
Okay, all right, awesome. So Francine's SAT verbal is 650. No, wait, what comes first? SAT. Okay, math is 590.
Is CR verbal? What does CR stand for in the document?
Critical reading, or like critical thinking, or yeah.
Okay. What was that number?
650. Okay. It says verbal. Because there's three SAT scores. There's the verbal and I'm sorry, the verbal, the writing, and the math.
Okay.
This is an older form, LaTesha, because didn't it used to be structured differently. So verbal for Francine is 650, math is 590, writing is 600. And it looks like she did not take the ACT, but she did take SAT subject tests. And she has a 600 in US history, 610 literature. And she would like to be an elementary ed and kinesiology major. So elementary education and kinesiology.
How do you spell that word? I saw that yesterday.
Oh yeah, KINESIOLOGY.
Thank you.
Yeah. So I think that is academic. I don't think I'm missing anything on Francine.
Type of high school.
It's a public high school.
Okay. Awesome. Okay, so with Shauna, she only listed her weighted GPA, which is a 4.0, but going through her transcript, she does, I want to say, I remember 3 or 4 Bs in there. And I can scroll, if we really want the unweighted, I can scroll down to that transcript in a second and go back and grab that for you. She took 4 AP classes out of the 16 that her high school has to offer. And the one thing that I noticed that was kind of, she did a pretty full schedule up until the second semester of her senior year. She's only slated to take 1 class, which always kind of makes me think like, oh, you know, or did you have to go get a job to start prepping to pay for college, or are you just kind of senioritis and slacking off a little bit? So that might be something that we talk about. She didn't mention she has a job, but she didn't mention why she would only take 1 class her second semester senior year anywhere. Her reading is 6:30. And then her math is 760. Her writing is 660. And then chemistry was 760.
Is that SAT subject?
Yes, sorry. Or excuse me, 730. And then her history subject test was 670. So pretty good scores there. Is this where we want to get into the academic recommendations, or do we want to wait for that later?
What do you mean by academic recommendations?
So the recommendations from like her school counselor or a teacher, I wasn't sure if that would go under the academic column or if we want to kind of put it later.
Yeah, I guess we could do that now because there is activities next and then the personal, which are different categories.
Okay. So her major, she wants to go into medicine. So she would be a pre-med major for undergrad. And then as far as the one recommendation goes, it was good, but it wasn't anything overly exciting. It was just kind of like, she'll make a great doctor. She's, done the mathletes activities in school. Seems to be really involved in STEM kind of thing. And then as far as the little questionnaire goes, most of her boxes were excellent and above. So that was strong, but I was kind of taken aback by the short and sweet written recommendation, knowing that sometimes if it's like an exceptional student, the teacher will really go out of the way to kind of talk about their life, talk about the extra things that they're doing more in depth. So that was the only other thing. She's a good student, but those were the 2 things that sort of stood out to me was and then later on, if we talk about the essay, her essay was kind of boring. Didn't really talk about her personality.
I wonder now, since you're talking about the essay, do we want to put the comments about the essay in here too? Does that belong to academic?
Sure. So she wrote about a neighbor or an older friend that taught her how to knit. It was really just sort of straightforward, didn't really grab my attention as far as creative writing goes. And then it also, like I said, it didn't really say a lot about her and her personality. I think what she was trying to do, because she's very STEM minded and wants to be a doctor, and a lot of our clubs are STEM oriented, was trying to see like, oh, I have a creative side. So that's kind of what I read into it. And I know I have a STEM kid and writing is not her thing. And if that's the only thing getting her into college, I would have been scared. But so I wouldn't expect it to be this, great literary piece, but it was also kind of underwhelming. So later on, we're looking at like the bigger, more competitive schools. If that's sort of a deal breaker for her, we might want to talk about that a little bit.
Okay. I would, Kerri, I probably would, I put that essay down in the personal section. I think in this academic, we're just really looking at the numbers.
Straight numbers.
Yeah, so I would paste it down there. Yeah.
Cool.
And then her personal essay down there too. But yeah, you wanted on the, what was I supposed to add that you added, Malia? We decided to put something in academic.
Oh, teacher recommendations from school
Oh, okay. Okay.
or counselor. I know all schools kind of do it differently. I'll tell you for sure if it was her counselor or her teacher that wrote this. One second.
For Francine, you can say she's a strong, creative, persevering student, but not intellectually elite. That's a summary of strong, creative, persevering, not intellectually elite. Just solid, good, solid student.
Okay, and then Shauna's was from her science teacher, which also might explain why it's kind of short and sweet to the point.
And Francine's is from counselor.
She has a teacher evaluation that's just pretty short, but then she has, oh wait, is that still part of the teacher? Maybe there's not a counselor one. So teacher for Shauna. And the teacher does, enthusiastically recommend her.
Do we know what subject the teacher teaches?
English.
Okay.
Oh, there's her counselor recommendation. She has okay. Her counselor also speaks heavily to her her maturity and work ethic. She was the dancer.
Yeah. Should we move on to Troy?
Troy.
Sure.
Oh, sorry. The type of high school that Shauna is from.
Okay, I made the assumption that it was public by the name, but can you guys guide me to the spot? Is there a spot where it's actually clicked somewhere?
It's a high school. It's not, I just happen to know because I've been there. So
Oh, gotcha. Okay, it's called Newton North High School, so it makes me think that it's a public school. I can kind of go through while we can move forward. Don't wait for me, and I can kind of go through and double check for you.
So on the high school profiles document, it says public school.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Cool. Thank you.
Okay.
Just let me know when you're ready because I can't see your screen.
Oh, you can't?
I mean, when I had to minimize it to read off.
Gotcha. Okay. Yeah, I'm ready.
All right. Overall GPA. Sorry, now I have to go back to.
I can tell you what I'm typing next so you don't have to flip between windows. So let's do GPA first.
Okay. GPA is 3.6.
Is that weighted or unweighted?
Unweighted.
Unweighted, 3.6. Okay. And then type of high school.
Private.
SAT.
SAT for verbal 750. Math is 710. Writing is 789.
That's an interesting score.
Yeah.
I have not seen something that ends with a 9.
I know.
He also took subject tests. Math 690. Calculus, wait. I think that says 2.
Calculus would be AP, wouldn't it?
I'm sorry.
Wouldn't calculus be an AP course?
It doesn't have AP listed. It just under the subject test.
Okay.
And then American History 760.
What was calculus again? Sorry.
I'm sorry.
What was calculus again? What was the score?
It says 2, so it might be an AP score, but it's listed under the subject test.
Yeah, that'll be AP. That's how AP is graded. So AP. And it's usually out of 5. And then the major he wants to do.
Can we do the ACT scores?
Yes.
Sorry, can you go back to the SAT subject test? That was just one score. It's a 690 and the name of it is Math to Calculus. So it's not, it's not an AP test. It's just called Math to.
Got it. Okay.
Oh, okay. Are you ready for his ACT scores?
Yes, I am.
English is 34. Math is 29. Reading is 35. And it says the composite score is 32.
A.
Major is business and law. Is this where we are? What information are you looking for next?
We could do recommendation.
So he has a recommendation from an English teacher. From what I gather from the recommendation, his teacher feels like he's a creative and exceptional student, but can be unfocused. But he says that he's a extremely creative, exceptional thinker, rare and high school student, but needs to work on his discipline.
Okay. Should we move on to, is that it for Troy? Any other recommendation?
No, just the one.
Okay, so we can do activities next for Francine.
Okay. All right. So Miss Francine, of course, ballet, since she was, I don't know, 4. So go back down to that section. So in activities, would you, yeah, I'll put like her leadership positions as well. So dance club president, all 4 years. Ballet teacher at a summer program for 3 years. A youth art camp instructor. More dance, Nutcracker since she was 9. Yeah, I'm looking for anything outside. Key club, all 4 years. Secretary of the Key Club. for 1 year. She did a Lions Club speaking competition and came in second place.
Sorry, I lost that one. The speaking competition.
Yeah, speaking competition in second place. She completed her 100 hours of volunteering.
She's busy. She was busy. That's a lot of.
And she also had an art show honorable mention. So yes, she's done some great stuff.
That's a pretty extensive list.
Mm-hmm.
All right, Shauna.
Okay, so she, in addition to doing the mathletes, she was a varsity swimmer all 4 years and has been doing that like her whole life as well. And then she's been playing the flute since she was 8 and was part of the Boston Youth Orchestra for the last 3 years of high school. And then leadership positions, she was the treasurer, her class treasurer junior year, but was involved in student government she was the treasurer for student government, and she was involved in that for 10th, 11th, and 12th grade and held a treasurer position in 11th grade. So I don't know if we want to differentiate between all that. And then she actually has a lot of work. She was an usher in a local movie theater. At the same time, she was also a swim instructor. And at the same time, she was a hospital aide.
I might explain that only one class, second semester.
Yeah. Honestly, I'm beginning to think she's probably just moving on to making money and getting a head start on those medical school hours.
Oh, and I just realized too, all of the applicants seem to have very little second semester listed, and maybe it's because they're still in first semester. They don't maybe know their whole schedule yet, because it does seem
Could be. Yeah.
November.
Yeah, she had civics listed as second semester, but I mean, there's always the potential that she was going to add more. Who knows?
Trying to separate the sports, the leadership.
She has quite a few awards too, so I don't know if we want to put that back up in academics or.
And this box doesn't actually extend with the typing, so it just gets pushed underneath the lines. I have to make sure everything's above the line.
Looks good.
All right, there's only so much I can do to organize this because it kind of gets scattered after a while. Leadership. Yeah, it's, I guess just no space in between. All right, I can edit this afterwards. Sorry, is there anything else you want to add?
If you want to go back up to the academic box, so she actually was a National Merit Scholar her junior year, or I mean, I guess that's when you get awarded that. So we should probably mention that. And then she's won a community service award, honor roll, which I think is a given with her GPA. And then she has mathlete listed as an honor. I am not familiar with how mathletes work, so I don't know if that's a club. And then if you excel, you're the ultimate mathlete, but she has it listed under her awards.
And from what I read about her application, it looks like she was pretty persistent with the mathlete and STEM.
Yeah, because that's what one of the things that her recommendation mentioned too, the teacher. So
that's good.
Must be a big deal.
Yeah. Okay, should we move on to Troy?
Okay. Troy was or has been involved in tennis for 4 years. I don't see any leadership positions listed. It just says that he's gotten 3 letters. Counselor at a Jewish community center for 4 years as well. Assistant editor of the school's literary magazine for 2 years. And the other things that he has listed are like, they're listed under extracurricular, but it's like he played guitar since he was 7 and he writes folk songs, which is listed. In the honors section, he was 2nd place chess winner, state winner at 16, and he's won an essay contest from Quarterly Jewish Magazine. And that's all that he has.
Okay. Personal for Francine.
Okay. So I'll speak to maybe her, okay, so ethnicity, gender, she's Chinese. Her parents' status, I want to say they were married. Let me look again. And living together. And they're both from China. Both of her parents were born in China. Her father has a bachelor's degree from Beijing. Her mother has an associate's degree from Long Beach City College. She has 2 younger siblings. And so she would not be a legacy. I don't see Denton, Hartwick, or Western on her list of colleges. So no for legacy. And then on her essay, you know, having read all 3 essays and comparing them, I thought she told a great story about, you know, her passion for ballet and that arc of, you know, just her personal growth of, you know, this is what I want to do for the rest of my life, to having that struggle in New York and realizing I'm just not at the level of these other young people. And I think maybe I was kind of sad for her because I thought, well, gosh, should just one summer in New York kill your dream of, you know, being a professional, you know, like, but at the same time, maybe she just knew something, you know, that she lives and breathes dance, and maybe it was a realization. So she still wants to do dance, but as a teacher, she's historically worked with younger kids in camps and has been doing that. So that New York summer solidified for her. So I thought she told a great story. And, you know, to be able to, you know, have the humility to admit I'm not at the professional league level, but I'm not going to walk away from it altogether. So I thought it showed everything her, you know, the teacher and counselor said about her, that she really does persevere and she works really hard. And so I like her very much as a person. I think she's has, great work ethic and some really good quality, character traits. Unlike Troy, who's mean to people apparently.
Oh no.
Well, yeah, one of his teachers, I think, said he's insensitive to other people, which is for a recommender to, sorry,
I know. Oh my gosh.
that's LaTesha's territory, but just like to compare, just character traits that I saw in each of them. So, okay, that's enough for Francine.
Thank you. And I'm just curious yeah, I guess the ethnicity is helpful for the school to know because they want to diversify, I guess, profile for the school. How does the parents, why do we want to care about the parents?
Yeah.
I guess marriage status for the admissions.
So
I know that. Sorry, go ahead.
Oh no, LaTesha, you go. I think you got way more.
I know that usually, so sometimes they care about parent status, like if they're married or not, because it can impact their financial need. It can impact if say, especially, I thought it was interesting that it asked for the year that the parents were divorced, because whether or not that may have impacted the students' academics, if they were like caught in the middle of a nasty divorce or something like that, as well as, crap, the other thing just floated out of my mind. Yeah, basically how the household impacts like the student and like their concentration or their values and things like that.
Got it. Okay, let's move on to Shauna. I'm just gonna copy and paste stuff over so I have the same template and the same format.
Love it.
Cool.
Yeah, I wondered too, just, speaking to that question of why they ask about the parents, I didn't know if it was, just wanting immigration status and, giving priority to first generation students. So that may play in a little bit. I don't know. Has anyone here done reading? I know some of our classmates have read on admissions committees before. Was that you, LaTesha?
Yeah, I read for UC Irvine,
Okay.
which I think it's interesting. Well, this whole process, I definitely, the reading process for like the UC system is probably very different than like for competitive and private schools, because we're definitely not comparing student to student, like like we are right now. Every student is sort of compared to itself, but also like against the fabric of the school and their neighborhood and their community and stuff like that, but not like in a form like this. So I think that's interesting. Also, in the previous class, the counseling a college-bound student, I remember having issue with the whole all of the things that competitive and highly selective schools do that a lot of the UCs don't do. I mean, UCLA is a competitive school. UC Berkeley is a competitive school. And they don't have all of the requirements that this is me getting on my soapbox about all of that stuff. But anyway, yeah, so yeah, I read for UC Irvine.
Well,
sorry.
LaTesha, thank you. Like I have no experience in that. So jump in with like any insight on how it's done or, help us, as we're muddling through this.
No, this is all, I mean, it's good to have like a committee. I'm guessing this is helpful, like to hear other people's perspectives of the candidates, because specifically as a reader for UC Irvine, we read by ourselves. So they just send us the files. We don't have like meetings and talk to other people about student profiles and things like that. So we just sort of like muddle through by ourselves, making assumptions and having our own questions, and then just submitting a score or a acceptance, not acceptance, or whatever. so this is good to have like the conversation, like, oh, you know, things that you might have picked out from Francine or Shauna's profile that I probably might have overlooked or something like that. And I read through all 3 profiles, but I also glanced through them like I would as a reader. So like there were probably things that I'd missed because, again, like KGB said, you have this very small window of time to get through hundreds or thousands of applications. So, but this is good. I everything that we're doing and we're discussing is exactly what I would do on my own for UC Irvine.
Okay, thank you. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you. Okay, so ethnicity. Okay, so she's white, non-Hispanic. She clicked, yeah. Her parents are married. She lives with both of them. Now, this could just be early morning, only half a cup of coffee, but I'm not seeing where the list of her colleges that she's applying to is at. So I don't know. I promise I'll go and find it. But as of right now, what's that?
It's not listed. We just were given 3 college profiles
Oh, okay.
that they all had applied to all 3. That was my assumption because
Yeah, it looks like that's how it works. It was not really clearly stated, but
Okay.
I think they applied to all 3.
so just assume she's applied to Denton, Hartwick, and Western.
Okay, thank you. So her dad does have a bachelor's from UMass and is a traffic engineer, and her mom does not have a college degree and works as an office manager at State Farm Insurance. And she has an older brother that is at Boston College right now. Oh, looks like he graduated. He graduated from Boston College. So yeah, okay. So as far as the essay goes, again, you know, it wasn't anything that really touched me, or I don't feel like I got to know her better as a person. But you know, as I said, she seems to be on the medical doctor track, so I think that maybe give her a little leeway there. The other area where there was something about elaborate on one of your activities that you've done. And she's been playing the flute since she was 8 and a part of the Boston Youth Orchestra. And she really didn't take much time to write about that either. It does say briefly elaborate, but she wrote 2 sentences. Was like, I played for them for 3 years, which, you know, we can already pick up on in her list of activities. And one season I was selected as part of the master class, and that's kind of all she said. Instead of, again, I feel like that could have been an opportunity for us to get to know her better. If she, I don't even know if she likes playing the flute, honestly. It could be that her parents made her do it. So I majored in journalism, so the writing to me always is kind of, you know, your opportunity to really sell yourself, and I just feel like she missed those opportunities twice. But being super new at this, I don't even know if that matters because she's got great grades and tons of activity. So, but that's just kind of my 2 cents there. And then was there anything else for the personal?
Personal traits.
Oh, character traits.
What would you conclude from?
But the overall,
Yeah.
I mean, she's driven, you know. I think we answered the question about why she's probably not taking classes her second semester. All of her activities, she either did 3 or 4 years of high school. So it wasn't like she, you know, did one, quit. So she's definitely dedicated and driven. And I have no reason to think she wouldn't be successful in becoming a doctor. She seems like she follows through with everything she's started.
To add to that, I really appreciated how she wrote about sitting and doing the needlepoint with Ruth, who was a doctor, that like forced Shauna to learn how to slow down because Shauna sounds like just driven, and she just does stuff. So like I felt like that was not sure what word I would use, but yeah, maybe teachable, which is really important because she was able to share, I learned this specific thing from my mentor. I thought, or coachable, there you go. Yeah.
Yeah, and that's a really good side way to look at it. I'm always kind of like, sit down and tell me about how awesome you are. But I mean, there, yeah, you can read that into it of like, oh, she is teachable. And I know with these essays, there's so many different prompts. So maybe she picked the prompt of like who impacted your life the most, and she said that. So
That is exactly the prompt she picked. Yeah.
Yeah, and for a high school kid's life, that might have been the greatest impact on her life, because if the students have had just easy, cushed life, then
Right.
nothing a lot happens in their life, and something little like that is a big thing to them.
Yeah, and you don't want to hold that against them because not everybody can have a story that they immigrated during COVID, and lived, with 20 family members. Like they're not all going to have those in-depth stories that I think we all kind of want to look for. So, cool. Thank you for that perspective, Jennifer.
Absolutely.
I think of the 3 essays, I liked Shauna's the best. I feel like I got the most insight into like who she is. The other essays, I didn't get that impression. Like it's really hard. Like you're saying, like there's so many prompts that they have to pick from that it's interesting to see which ones students gravitate towards, but also like what they write about. And I mean, I'm trying not to go off into a tangent about it, but because I do personal statement writing with students and I read, it's like trying to get students to understand that the personal statement is supposed to be about them and about who they are instead of writing about another person or experience. Like it, for example, Shauna's essay could have been all about Dr. Brown and her needle point, but the fact that she was reflective about learning about patients and all these other things, these introspective things, even though it was an experience with another person, is like, it gives us a peek into who she is and how she thinks versus just talking in vague and sort of like top level terms about learning how to needle point from someone. I don't know if that makes sense.
Oh,
yeah, no, definitely.
Mhm.
So I appreciated that. I felt like I got more of an insight into who she was and versus like the other 2 essays. I'm like, I don't really, good thing you have good grades.
Yeah, Shauna's essay definitely made me think too. I was like, okay, all right, I read it. It's kind of good, but it's missing something. So it's an interesting essay.
Yeah.
Yeah. So time-wise, we are about 10 minutes left before we have to, I don't have to go. So how's everybody doing time-wise?
Oh, how about LaTesha does the Troy personal column, and then maybe we could make a decision in 10. I mean, people make decisions in 5 minutes, right, LaTesha?
Yeah.
So I think we can do it.
Yeah.
All right, let's do it. I'll type faster.
No, you're doing great. Thank you so much for doing this.
Yeah,
Oh,
Kerri.
yeah, no problem.
Also, Kerri, under the ethnicity part for Shauna's, you put Hispanic, not non-Hispanic.
Oh, he's not Hispanic.
Non, yeah.
Oh, okay, got it.
Troy listed his ethnicity as Jewish, white. He is male. Parents are divorced. Both of his parents are college educated. His mother has a graduate degree from Berkeley. I'm sorry. Yeah, no, father has the graduate degree. Mother just has the BA. His dad has actually got his degree in business, so I wonder if that's what is influencing him to want to go into business. No siblings. which is interesting that he's the only child. Legacy, no.
Essay.
Essay wise, he wrote about going to a Jewish camp one summer and his spiritual awakening. But so this is why I was thinking about Shauna's essay, is that it's not, it was, I guess I would have liked for him to talk more, because there's just like one paragraph where he talks about his mom and his dad, his mom being an atheist, and how she learned and cooked traditional Jewish meals, and how they would celebrate high holidays together, but then how that ceased after the divorce, and how this being at camp and eating these foods and participating in the Seder and stuff like that, like how that made him like realize that he missed having those traditional moments with his family. But like it's literally one paragraph out of 5, and the rest of them sort of like are all over the place. So it's, I wonder if this is like a part of his like unfocusedness, like his creativeness, like maybe he's like thinking about all of these things and doesn't exactly know how to connect all of them in his essay. So he's like talking about cleaning up Legos and kids with spinning out of control after eating a bunch of sugar and stuff like that. And then at the very end is when he becomes more introspective about how this camp is like making him miss high traditions, and how he wants to start exploring his Jewish roots.
Yeah, I think Troy, true to what his teachers have said, that he does not have a good work ethic and he isn't disciplined. I think he spent 5 minutes on this,
Yeah,
and dashed it off, but his really high scores show that he's extremely capable, but he just was blowing this off, to be honest. That was my impression, that Troy he'll do fine once he, like one of the teachers said, once he decides that he's gonna start applying himself. It's just an immaturity. He hasn't grown into himself yet.
yeah.
But he clearly did not. I mean, that could have been an incredible essay, like you're
Yeah.
saying, LaTesha. There's so much there that he could work with.
I wanted more about the mom, and I mean, I try and steer students away from focusing too much on other people in their essays, but like even talking about impact, even like if you want to talk about how you're now thinking about exploring your Jewish roots, like delve into that more versus like all these other things. Like definitely agree with you, Jennifer, that it seemed like he sort of waited to the last minute and threw it together.
We didn't talk about finances, but really quick, I noticed that Shauna's the only one who checked that she was applying for financial aid. The others checked the box that I will not be applying for need-based aid.
Interesting.
So Troy and Francine must, just be at a wealth level where they're not planning on applying for need-based aid.
I mean, I think I had assumed Troy wasn't, I mean, he's going to a private school, even though it's a small private school. I thought maybe that might be a reason why. I mean, that's making a lot of assumptions about his family's finances, but yeah.
All right. Should we move on to decisions?
Okay, decision time.
Let me pull up the college profiles.
I'm trying to think if there was one that made me think that, okay, this, was it Denton? No.
Should we start with Troy since we're already on him?
Yeah, that's awesome.
Originally, when I wrote down my decisions over the weekend. I thought that Troy would probably definitely get into Western University because he meets their minimum requirements. And I thought maybe he might get waitlisted at Denton because he like meets some of their requirements, but I don't know if he has the focus for a selective public university. So I thought maybe he might get waitlisted there.
It's that sometimes when you were talking about him and just the focus and kind of like he's on the verge, he's smart, but he's just not right there. Do people get waitlisted in sort of a way of like, well, let's see how much you really want this? It kind of that waiting time does make you grow up a little bit. Or is it really just kind of based on the numbers when that happens? If you guys know.
I know specifically with like Berkeley and UCLA, a lot of the times when they get waitlisted, they are like on the cusp, and sometimes they'll ask the waitlisted students to supply additional letters of recommendations from like a counselor or something like that. Letters of rec are not required for the application, but when you get waitlisted, they definitely encourage you to supply it. And I think you have to supply specifically. I'm thinking of a student I worked with last year that was waitlisted at UCLA, and they had to do an additional statement, like not personal statement or statement of intent or something like that. So I think it's like those students that are like, they want to admit them. Maybe it's numbers.
Right.
I don't know how it works for private schools or highly selective schools.
Yeah, and I feel Troy is a bit just far away to be able to catch up and be ready. At what's in his application is not convincing enough to show me that he is gonna be coachable. The gap is just too big for a university to risk a spot to admit a student or waitlist a student like that.
Yeah.
Okay, Shauna.
Definitely Western. They all meet all the requirements for Western. But yeah, you go, Malia.
I'm very close to saying yes to all three, honestly. I think we talked through the couple of things that I either misinterpreted or just was wondering about. And that was really helpful. And I think for sure. But if you guys disagree, feel free to plop her on the wait list somewhere.
Just checking quickly through all of the three schools. Do they all provide pre-med support? Denton does for sure. I see that.
Hartwick says financial aid. Let's see, more than a third of the freshmen received institutional grants. So I think she would have a pretty decent chance at Hartwick of getting a good financial aid package.
What about the pre-med, the medicine?
Oh, sorry, I thought you said finances. Sorry. It's known for its pre-med and pre-law programs. Hartwick.
Awesome. Okay, so that'll work for her. Western.
And I wish Troy had a better work ethic because he should go to Hartwick. Like if he could pull his act together just because of that pre-law program, and he has the scores for it.
Right.
All right, and we have Francine, where does she go to school?
Now I would say she gets accepted to Western and Denton and waitlisted, or probably rejected at Hartwick. She just doesn't have I don't think she has what it takes to have the intellectual. Like one of her teachers said, she just is not an elite intellectual, which I think you have to be for Hartwick.
Yeah.
Troy is like, I'm still wavering on whether Troy gets waitlisted for Hartwick, just because like that kid has all the raw stuff. He just is so freaking immature.
Well, this is the part where I wish it was more of like a two-way, kind of like an audition where you get feedback. I wish that, these admission officers can come back and be like, hey, this is what we were thinking about you. Can you prove something over the next few months, work on this, this, and that, but.
I know if they do interviews at Hartwick, I don't know. But yeah. And
But
then
you can't do that with 100,000 applicants at UCLA, sit down with that many students.
so for Francine, for Denton, I know they have some good fine arts programs. So I think that would be like her best fit college personally. And even though she's like at the low end of their scores and GPAs, I think she has the work ethic that she could do it.
Okay. Let me just write down the reasons for all of them because I think that'll be important in this assignment. Admitted to all three because Shauna is academically strong, has all the traits to be successful academically.
And I was impressed with her follow through. I feel like a lot of kids, they'll do 2 years of tennis or 1 year of volunteering with the Salvation Army. And she was very consistent. When she started something, she followed it through to senior year. And I think that that's not always the case. So
Right.
I think she'll graduate.
Troy Western is probably the best fit to allow him to mature.
That's a great way to say it. Yeah. And so, maybe he, puts in 2 years and can transfer to, when he's emotionally ready for the next step.
If he becomes more independent, I guess.
More focused.
Yeah.
More
That's what I'm
focused.
thinking.
Okay. And the flag for me for Troy is throughout the application, it says that he's a good writer and he's got awards in essay competitions, but he didn't do a good job in the essay. So it's like contradicting.
Yeah.
Totally, Kerri. I thought the same thing. I was like, I couldn't wait to read his essay. I'm like, oh, but I bet his essay has some really good stuff in it. And I was like so let down. I'm like, Troy, you let me down.
Yeah. Okay. Is there anything else we would like to add here?
I think I'm good. Anybody?
Seems like a pretty straightforward decision from based on what we see. Who needs financial aid? Shauna.
Yeah.
Do these 3 schools offer financial support?
Jennifer, you said Hartwick, it was like a third of the students got
Institutional grants. Yes.
Yeah.
And
On
Western is
campus.
super generous. More than 90% of students get financial aid.
Oh, wow.
So
Which one was that?
Western.
Western, okay.
Super generous.
I'm looking through Denton enrollment.
I don't see.
Yeah. 80%, 20% international.
They don't mention it.
Huh. Interesting. I I would assume there would have to be some, I mean,
Which school is that?
Denton just doesn't really mention it.
Their
Okay.
school profile doesn't mention anything about financial aid giving, like percentages or what can be expected. I don't, that's just interesting.
Would that push her to the wait list, do you think, if we assume Denton doesn't?
Well, let's hope they're need blind in admission and that they don't, make their decision based on that. That will be up to Shauna to look at her financial aid packages and she gets to make the decision. But if I were Shauna, I would, be probably looking at Western or Hartwick just because that's where she's going to get the money.
Yeah. And I
And
would hope a school wouldn't decline because she needed money, because the truth is she has to pay to go there.
Right.
Like, so if, she'll either not accept or, whereas the vice versa, if you have a ton of money and they're not need blind and they just accept you only because you have a ton of money, I think that's probably more of the problem. But that's just my wishful thinking on having a wonderful world and everything.
And for
LaTesha, like having been a reader, do you ever make decisions based on those financial issues, or are you blind to that?
UC Irvine doesn't admit or deny based on financial need. How finances play into their profile more so has to do with access to opportunity. So if they are living in a neighborhood or going to a school that doesn't have as many resources as another school, we're sort of encouraged to give those students the benefit of the doubt. Like if they are taking advantage of everything that their school has to offer, even if their school doesn't have that much to offer, because maybe this is their neighborhood school, because of their financial, socioeconomic bracket or whatever, like basically giving them the benefit of the doubt, but not like don't admit this student because they can't afford to come here or anything like that.
Okay.
yeah, and universities are businesses, so in a way they could be selfish about, oh, I don't really care how you're going to pay for it, as long as they have that income stream to support their facilities and pay the professors. I think they could be a little, I guess, the students sometimes could be the victims.
Yeah.
And if they don't understand how student loan works and they're not thinking through before they apply, and they're just like, okay, here is an admission letter, so let me figure out now how I'm going to pay for it. And then 30 years down the road, there is still student loan to pay for. It's sad, but it's the reality.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. All right. Well, I think we're good. I'm going to stop the recording because this is going to take a long time to prep.
Yeah.
Thanks, guys.